Hey Alice, can you sing a little about the Godfather?
In the shadows, the family stands strong.
Wow, look at you bringing some melody to the discussion.
The audio you just heard there was generated with VibeVoice. VibeVoice is a new open source text-to-speech model which Microsoft just released for the public to use. It can generate up to 90 minutes of audio with up to 4 speakers, consistent voices, and natural turn-taking. Today we're going to look at this model, explore how it works, what's different about it, and then I'll show you how to use it to create a fun movie trivia podcast. It's going to be a lot of fun, so let's dive into it. VibeVoice supports up to 4 distinct speakers in one session, and the 1.5 billion parameter model can reach about 90 minutes per run. There's also a large model that tops out at 45 minutes per run. But how is it different from other text-to-speech models? Well, it uses a tactic called next token diffusion. Instead of predicting audio codes with a standard auto-regressive stack, VibeVoice uses an LLM to process the script and speaker prompts, and then a lightweight diffusion head that predicts the acoustic latents token by token. This keeps the dialogue coherent while still adding the fine acoustic detail that diffusion is good at. It also uses 2 ultra-low rate continuous tokenizers, one acoustic and one semantic, which both run at about 7.5 Hz. This is a roughly 3,200 times larger downsampling from the 24 kHz audio, which means far fewer tokens to model. Microsoft reports about an 80-time better compression improvement over encodec, and a speech-to-text ratio of roughly 2 speech tokens to 1 BPE text token. In other words, you can synthesize very long conversations without blowing up your memory. And based on their subjective evaluation, Microsoft also claims it excels at preference, realism, and richness. Well, we'll see about that. Stay tuned for the demo portion of this video. There are 2 public model versions available today. There's supposedly also a streaming variant on the way, so if you're on a modest hardware, that smaller model works very well for long audio files. And currently it only supports 2 languages, English and Chinese. Their demos also highlight interesting features this model has. For example, it can generate spontaneous emotion, or it can even start singing spontaneously. And it also sometimes adds AI-generated music on the background. The most interesting part is that there is no control over these features, so the model itself chooses when to do any of these things based on the context. Alright, this all sounds so much fun that I just have to try it on my own. So next, I'm going to show you how to generate a simple 2-speaker podcast using VibeVoice. I have also added a link to the GitHub project we'll be using today, so if you want to follow along, feel free to clone that project and try it out for yourself. So here's one thing you should know about me. I am a big cinephile. I love watching movies, and I also love learning about the movies I watch. So I thought it would be a cool idea to create a project where I can just type in a movie and the script gives me back an auto-generated podcast episode where 2 speakers discuss interesting trivia about that particular movie. So that's exactly what I created in this project. You can type in a movie and the script outputs an audio file generated by VibeVoice of the podcast. So next, I'll show you how to set it up and run it for yourself so you can have fun with it as well. Since I don't have a beefy graphics card, I'm going to be running this project on RunPod on an A40 GPU, but if you have a CUDA supported GPU at home, you can try running it on your local machine as well. If you want to replicate my RunPod setup, for the template I chose the Ubuntu image with UV and CUDA support. And in the template, I'll just change the disk and volume size to be 100 gigs and 64 gigs. And we also want to expose port 3001 because that's where we'll be previewing our audio files. And once that is set up, I just click to deploy it and then use the SSH command to log into it. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is clone the repo and then go to the project directory. First, let's create a virtual environment by running uvvenv, followed by source venv/bin/activate. Now we can run bash install sh, and the script will install all the necessary dependencies for the project, so you don't have to worry about that. You will also need 2 API keys for this project. one from OpenAI so we can generate our speaker script outputs, and an API key from the movie database, which you can get for free. So now run this command to create your own environment file, and here you'll need to put in your own OpenAI and TMDB API keys, and then save the file. Once that's done, we're ready to go. Let's start the script in interactive mode by running ub run python-m main, and then you will be prompted to enter a movie title. I'll choose Godfather for our first test, and then it will also ask you if you want to specify the year, because sometimes movies have the same name, so it's handy to specify which year's release that is. So in this case, I will put 1972. At this point, the script will fetch the movie title from the movie database and then query Wikipedia to find facts and trivia about the movie. And as you can see, it found 10 trivia facts that it will use for our podcast. And next, we are prompted to choose our speakers. There are 9 sample voices provided by VibeVoice. So let's go with Alice as the first speaker, and let's choose Carter as the second one. Lastly, it gives you the option to name our output file. I'll just name it The Godfather in this case. Next, the script will query OpenAI to write out our dialogue. And before we continue, I just want to show you what the prompt looks like in the code. To test out the VibeVoice features like the spontaneous emotion or spontaneous singing, I added these 2 instructions. For one of the trivia beats, let one speaker ask the other speaker to sing about it. And the second one, for one of the trivia beats, make sure the speakers get into an emotional, heated argument. That way we can test out what those features actually sound like in the generated audio. All right, back to our script, and we can see here that the dialogue has been generated. And if we peek into it, indeed, we can see that at this point, Carter will ask Alice to sing about The Godfather. So that will be very funny to see how it turns out. And once the script is done generating the audio file, it will launch a small web server where you can preview the audio and download the files. So let's have a listen, shall we?
Welcome to our podcast, where today we're diving into the iconic film The Godfather and sharing some fascinating trivia about its creation.
I can't wait. Did you know that The Godfather is based on Mario Puzo's novel, which spent 67 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list?
Can you believe that? They almost missed out on an iconic performance.
I love how that emotion comes out. Can you believe that? The spontaneous emotion really works in this case.
Hey Alice, can you sing a little about The Godfather?
I'm not sure I'm ready for that, but I'll give it a shot. In the shadows, the family stands strong.
Wow, look at you bringing some melody to the discussion.
Oh my god, the spontaneous singing was so wild. It almost felt like that model went into overdrive and didn't know what to do with that prompt. So as we can hear, the narration sounds somewhat believable, and it's interesting to see how the emotion really spikes at certain points. And also I noticed that the AI generated music in the background also seems very random and noisy for some reason. We can also choose speakers like Samuel with different English accents. So let's see how that sounds.
Did you know that The Dark Knight was developed after the success of Batman Begins, with Warner Bros. Eager for a sequel featuring the Joker?
That's awesome.
I love how she says, "That's awesome." You can really believe it's awesome.
I can't help but wonder what he wrote in that diary.
Hey Maya, can you sing about how committed Ledger was to the role?
Since he dove deep in the dark, he found the Joker's spark.
That was great. I love how passionate he was about the character.
What the heck was that? Oh my god, that sounded so haunting. Oh my god, that was the weirdest random noisy AI generated output I've ever heard. So I mean, the narration is decent, but when it gets to those spontaneous sections like the singing one, it sometimes gets a bit creepy. And at this particular Dark Knight podcast, I found something very strange. At the very end, Samuel seems to change his voice completely, almost as if suddenly a totally different person started talking. Here, listen to this.
The film's score, composed by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard, focuses on character-driven themes.
It really adds to the film's emotional depth and intensity.
The Dark Knight was released in a record 4,366 theaters in the US and Canada, earning $158 million in its opening weekend.
That's incredible.
It almost felt like a totally different person there, right? And here's where it gets even stranger. For this test, VibeVoice just randomly chose to insert background music in certain parts. Not only that, but the music also sounds very haunting. Just listen to this.
Today we're discussing There Will Be Blood and its intriguing backstory. There Will Be Blood was inspired by Upton Sinclair's novel Oil. Director Paul Thomas Anderson adapted the screenplay from the first 150 pages of Sinclair's book, changing the title to reflect the film's themes.
It definitely fits the dark tone of the film.
Principal photography.
So yeah, those music bits sound kind of haunting. And speaking of haunting, listen to this.
The score is haunting.
Speaking of haunting, Bowen, can you sing a little bit about Greenwood's score?
Sings the strings they weave, a tale of dread.
That was great. Greenwood truly did something special.
Oh my god, this is just so much fun. We could do this all day like this. But if you're curious to listen what the samples sounded like, I also put all the sample files in the GitHub repo if you want to check them out as well. So there you have it, VibeVoice, an open source text-to-speech model released by Microsoft. It kind of feels like a stripped down version of Notebook LM, but it's totally not there yet. You might be wondering, what could this model practically be used for? Well, I can think of some scenarios. For example, it could work as a free alternative to Notebook LM. If they do come out with the 0.5 billion parameter model, that would be a great model for real-time voice assistants, maybe even for IoT devices. So certainly VibeVoice has its place in the AI ecosphere, but I wouldn't say it made a big impression on me. If anything, it just made me laugh how silly and random the outputs sometimes were. But anyway, those are just my takeaways. What do you think about VibeVoice? Have you tried it? Will you use it? Give us some ideas in the comments what it could be used for. And folks, if you like these types of technical breakdowns, let us know by smashing that like button underneath the video. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. This has been Andres from BetterStack, and I will see you in the next videos.